In this video we're going to have a quick look at how you use variables in Unity and also how you use the debug.log, which is very similar to the console.log in the development tools inside of Chrome that you've been using a lot with P5 in the past. So we're going to continue on working on the script that we had before. We're going to just delete some aspects of it that we don't need. I'm going to delete the on mouse down function. I'm going to leave everything else there. And the first thing I'm going to do is add a variable. And you have various types of variables in Unity. The most common one you'll use is a variable that is that has the scope of the whole of the class that you put it in, rather than a local variable that is local to the function that you declare it in. So to make it have scope where across the whole class, you need to put it at the top of the class above start. So you need to declare it immediately at the top of your class. And so we're just going to make a counter, and what I'm going to say is private int counter, and then I'm going to explain what I'm doing here. So you're much more used to using the let word in place of this to declare the name of your variable. So what do these two words do? Well, the first one, int, is declaring the type of variable. An int is an integer, but it's possible to have strings as variables or floats, and actually a whole range of other types of data that refer to components inside of Unity. So this is one difference in C# to JavaScript, where you need to declare the type of variable that you are creating. So we're doing that here, and then we're saying the variable is private. So what that means is that other scripts in our Unity environment will not be able to access this variable. If I make it public, I would be able to retrieve the value of this variable at any point from another script located somewhere else in my scene attached to a different game object. So you need to decide carefully whether or not you might need to do that. You can of course change it later on. There is also another function with private and public that we'll see in just a moment. So I've now declared my variable, and I'm going to set it inside of start. So I'll set it as the program begins to run, and I'm going to say counter equals 0. So I'm literally just going to make a counter variable that is 0, and then I'm just going to count it up. Actually, in this example, I'm going to output that to the console or the debugger or the debug log, and to do that I'll write debug, notice the capitals, .log, and then counter. In C#, command words usually begin with a capital, as you can see here. So that's going to output my counter value to the log, and I'll show you that in just a moment. And then what we want to do is increment that variable. So we can do that down here inside of update, because update is going to run at 60 times a second, so that's a good place to increment the variable. So I'm just going to say counter plus plus. Now that's going to add 1 to the counter on every frame, and then once again I'm going to debug log. I'm going to log out the result of counter. So now when we run our code, we should be able to see the variable growing inside the log. So let's go and run the script and find the log. So we go back to our Unity scene. Our script is already attached to the cube, so it's going to run when we run the scene. And what we need to do now is to find the log, and the log lives somewhere in your environment. It's actually most likely, if you've got the default setup, to be down here, but I've actually got it up here, and you can see I've already got some errors in my log, which I can just press clear to clear, and we'll see if they We'll see if they come back when I run the scene. So I'm going to press play, and what I should see is the numbers as the counter increases visible inside my console. So let's just watch that work. And there you go. You can see that that's counting up very effectively inside the console, exactly as I'd expect. If I now go back to the script and I change this value here to public and save the script, you'll see that the script that the counter variable is now accessible by any script elsewhere in my Unity program, but also inside the inspector I will be able to see its value. So that can sometimes be a more useful way of monitoring your variable's value than pushing it to the console. So if I click on Cube and I look down at my intro to scripting, you can now see that there is a little slot here for the counter variable that's just appeared and that wasn't there last time I looked at the script. So now when I run the program, you'll see the value increasing here. And so that's one of the useful functions that the public keyword will give you when you attach it to any variable. And there you can see that the value of counter is increasing. So this is the main way that you would go about using a variable inside a C# script. And you can obviously manipulate that variable in just the same way that you would with P5. So in the next video, we'll start looking at how you might use physics properties inside a Unity with code.